Well, well, well. Welcome to the Lost Begotten channel, where we're phoning in the graphics today. That's the last video. The fucking webcam zoomed into it because I figure, I was already my own VJ during that video. I can just let myself be my own VJ during this video for when I need these kind of graphics up there. So I thought that was funny. But don't worry, I have actual jokes today. Oh yes, actual jokes. But anyways, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Lost Begotten channel. I am your host, Fake TV's The Actual Lost Begotten. Isn't that special? And today, we're going to be talking about some, looks like things and stuff. Yeah, stuff and things. Yeah, fairly typical. But, before I get into that, I would just like to say, I get no respect. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong. I mean, I get no respect, obviously. I get no respect, even though I'm so fucking Jesus. If Jesus came back at this point, he'd be jocking my style. Now, bear in mind, obviously, I'm John the Baptist, and Jesus is Gaelic for I am, and not even a fucking name. So anybody who says their name is Jesus is just a moron. Doesn't know what a Galilean is, let alone were they ever one. Okay. But anyway. I'm so fucking Jesus that the Happy and You Know It song hurts. I'm so Jesus, if Joel Osteen asked me for money, he'd burst into flames. I'm so Jesus, when I fart, an angel gets its wings. I'm so Jesus, my toast comes out with images of me eating that piece of toast. I'm so Jesus, my turds are shaped like crosses. And I don't know how. Good Friday pisses me off. I'm so Jesus, when someone says, nailed it, I reflexively tell them to go fuck themselves. I'm so Jesus, when I yell fire in a theater, nobody runs. They just look at me like I'm fucking Superman or something. What the fuck? Call the fucking fire department. It's not I'm not a fucking Marvel character. I'm the redeemer of souls. I've already got scoliosis from dragging a fucking tree halfway across the town. Now you assholes want me to run and get the fire hose. Saving your souls and your lives ain't enough for you unless I can shit Lucky Charms and fart rainbows. Well, let me ask you this, dearies. If I farted rainbows, how gay would all the angels' wings look? Did you ever think about that? Psst, these are the jokes. You know, I get no respect. Flat Earth gets no respect either. And some Flat Earth jokes. The Earth is so fucking flat. Ask me how flat the Earth is, Mr. Conway. Ask me how flat is it. The Earth is so fucking flat. You want to know how flat it is? Ask me. I got a few. Text pad. Yes, I'm actually reading today, can you tell? That's what took me so long to do the broadcast. Like, I meant to be on by 10, but I was like sitting here eating my fucking summer sausage, which I went and I rinsed my damn mouth out after making myself 2 little summer sausage and cracker and cheese, and I forgot to eat them. So now I gotta eat them later if I want my mouth to hurt again. How flat is it? The Earth is so flat, it's nervous about middle school. The Earth is so flat, Mitch McConnell thought it was his face. The Earth is so flat, Chip Foose wanted to put it in a 39 Ford. car guy joke. You know what a flathead V8 is. The earth is so fucking flat. Fish look up and think the sky is a ball. Because they got a fisheye lens, see? Ba-dum-bum-ch. The earth is so flat. Seinfeld put it in his stand-up routine. Why is it that the earth is so flat? Okay. The earth is so flat when a tree falls in a forest and nobody's around to hear it. A little cartoon kid rides on a bike and says, "Ha ha." No, not really. The earth is so fucking flat. Donald Trump won't date it till it's 18. Wah, 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 wah. Alright, I'm done with those. So anyways. Welcome back to the magical channel of rainbow farts. Unicorn farts. Wait, if Jesus farts rainbows, then all the angels' wings will turn out with little rainbow colors on them, and then they'll all look gay. And we can't have heathen-looking homosexual angels running around fighting in the Lord's army. I don't know how these words make it to my face, but I just let them out, don't I? Okay. Anyways, so I should probably pause it and de-goofify my thoughts now. My fucking teeth are starting to... Oh, God damn it. I mean, me, damn it. In the toast I eat, there's a little picture of me eating that exact piece of toast. That's my personal favorite of all those things that I, jotted down in MS Notepad this morning after, well, let's face it, a very effective bowl of Fruit Loops. Part of your complete breakfast. Along with fucking summer sausage. Ew. Me and Dingo used to eat the shit out of this. Fucking summer sausage. On a Ritz cracker with a little piece of cheddar. Man, white man be shitting in tall cotton. Hold on a second. Yeah, I'm so Jesus when I go to Rio de Janeiro. People just make me stand there and fucking hold my arms up so they can take photos of me. No. Save that one for Seinfeld. Anyways. Saw a cigarette. Mr. Conway saw a cigarette with an image of Jesus on it before. That makes me want a cigarette. Anyways, if you're just joining us and you have the DVR capability to go back, please go ahead and just start the stream from the beginning, or after you see this screen come over, because I wouldn't want you to miss actual jokes that I wrote, you know, as opposed to just the normal brain farts that I think of spur of the moment. But anyway, so I have this little diagram I've been working on, and I showed it to you guys in the middle of a stream that was, what, an endurance race stream or something like that. And basically, what happened here is I started to diagram things, and I just kind of entered sort of a trance-like state where I just, you know, kept on going off my memories, and I was like, oh wait, that's there, and then that's there, and then over here is that, and just kind of like I've been there, you know. So, another thing I did that made me late for the video was I was labeling this thing. Once you saw the icon change is when that happened. If you saw the icon change, fuck my icon change. But the concept is quite simple. But before we get into that, let's just review what we discussed on the last little stream we did on this subject. And in fact, I should probably do a hashtag getting it right in the title. Okay, this is more complicated than I thought. I don't know if I can fit it. Anyways, maybe I'll unmute myself so y'all can listen to me while I don't talk.
Friction that powers it. So that's why I say it's kind of self-perpetuating. I don't know if I earlier explained that.
Give me 1 second.
So, picture this Mercury, right? You may have seen the videos that have explained or attempted to theorize how hyper-excited liquid mercury enters a superconductive state and causes levitation. Maybe that's, you know, maybe that's possible. If it is possible, then what I'm talking about here is definitely possible. Okay? But considering the alkaline makeup of the brine, as well as the limestone tectonic plate formation above it that it, you know, creates friction with as it rotates, and also under pressure, generating heat, being released as steam. You know, that's why we have volcanoes. They're caused by the steam from this brine. Whenever the brine releases the heavy metals, form solids. Okay?
You know, for a dumbass, that guy makes sense sometimes.
The rocks.
Anyways. going to continue letting this play on my screen until it gets something useful. I need to mute it. And I guess I'll just take it from the top on here, and then I want to discuss some 13th tribe type theories. I suppose they would fall into 13th tribe theory. But related to basically what you've learned on this channel about astral manifestation, about manifestoral versus perceptoral reality. Now, okay. At the top is the Heavenly Temple, and I think I can find my sketch pad drawing of it. Hold on. There's one. There's the other. With my wand in front of it. How about that? Not to be confused with this aberration, which my first impression was that that was CGI. But it's possible that that's the point at which this thing entered into this reality, or, well, that reality, the pre-2011 reality. Oh, and for anyone who wants a nice zoomed-in view of my wand and the hieroglyphs and whatnot, let me see if I can make that a little more zoomed in for you. Oh. Oh, I can get it even more. How about that? Now you can see the upper and lower pyramids there. That'd be dead in the center of the screen. And to the right of it is a few Aramaic glyphs. Or Proto-Gaelic runes. Not that all are the same, but these symbols are actually common. And if you look at the little knob towards the bottom right above that little knob on the little wood knob right there, you can see a C with a line coming from top and bottom of it. Well, from Can't make it out too well, but that's where it is. Being the symbol for light bringer or morning star. So the actual image there behind the wand is the actual, like the visual image, and the three dimensions of it's really poor. The little yellow orb on the top is closest to you, while the one on the bottom is furthest away from you. So the whole thing is kind of the bottom of a horizontal surface. And I tried to illustrate the depth of it better using this image. And you can see in the bottom left how the pillar of cloud kind of goes away from it towards the sky. That's a view from the bottom up, basically. And I'll explain what all the lines mean in just a second. So if you're not familiar, this is stuff that I documented back in 2011 when I suddenly found myself in the middle of an exorcism that I kind of thought was beyond my pay grade, should I say. Let's see, I think I have a still image of that, and I've posted plenty of video, yada yada yada. Here is sort of an overview of one of the still images with a lot of different apparitions that came out in the image that were all relevant to the story that was kind of unfolding during the exorcism. And here's sort of a frame by frame of that black hole forming. But anyways, if you note the rather odd angular shapes of the clouds, I will just go through the story again. I found myself attempting to exercise pride. And doing so as sort of a means to get to an unknown evil. And that is deception, or the god of war. Also known as the Lord of Hosts, before he rebelled. Fought with God and won, as it is written, O Azrael. Well, this is the devil that you knew. This is Lucifer being cast back into heaven. What you've been expecting lately is about 1,000 years late. Fast forward 1,000 years, and now we have these occurrences. He then faced judgment at the hands of the father figure, or throne holder, who had been, up until that point, Gabriel, or the angel of death. Gabriel is the caretaker of God's throne when God becomes incarnate as a man. Or, that's how it used to be. Now, you may have heard that eternal life was one of my objectives. That's because I promised Gabriel a long time ago that one day I would set him free too. Just think for a second. Understand that you're not God's only children. Well, Gabriel was then met, if you look on the right side of that orb, you see sort of a purple circular area that, depending on which copy of the video, is a bit more dramatic in motion. And that's another... Okay, so when the black hole formed, it had sort of a morphing kind of twist to it. And this here, this purple circle, had the same morphing twist to it, but did not morph to black. Instead, the center at its most morphed point was sort of magenta. And that's it. And that was Hathor, or Jezebel, the goddess of lust, who is Lucifer's mother. Lucifer being one of two brothers, representing an attempt to usurp God's throne through the rape of the corpse of Osiris. This was an underestimation and a misunderstanding of the physics of the relationship between Gabriel and myself, or Gabriel and God the Father. And what she wound up doing was having Gabriel's children instead. So, this war of dominion has been fought for several thousands of years now, based on numerous false claims made by people who thought they could outsmart God. Doesn't seem like a brilliant plan to me, but, you know, in a sense that was their purpose. Just as it was my purpose to see all these things and tell them to you. Now, in 2011, some of the videos I posted on the Sean Morris channel at the time were of UFO type events. And these UFO type events began to culminate towards the end of the month of June with a massive number of blue orbs. Seem to be almost ultraviolet. and they began to fly, just kind of bouncing back and forth in this pattern that you see. That's the tracing of those lines, is the pattern. And then also posted in the 2011 archive on this channel, and uploaded originally on the Sean Morris channel in 2011, the Heavenly Temple manifested itself at first in clouds that held position as the other clouds moved along the shapes of those lines. It would be a glowing apparition by night and then became clouds in the morning. And then this massive pressurous presence came down like two great pyramids, opposing each other, but taking up the same place, and the bottom, cast in shadow, faced the earth. And then, as the angels, these archangels, these seven spirits, took position around the Pontiac in the middle, took shape. And from the middle of all of these angles came down the light of creation. And in the middle of that light, a cloud that looked like a whale formed. And from that cloud, a voice like unto my own began to speak. My life has never been the same since. That cloud became the great eye. Not the eye of Ra. Not that old satanic symbol of false omnipresence. This is the eye that sees into your heart and judges it against the weight of a feather. And after that eye made that known to me, I began to see two presences in the eye. One of an upright male figure, and hanging upside down with her face and mind in the same place, a female fairy-like figure. And then, as if it were a camera zooming out, I saw the male figure stand up and walk in front of the cloud, to the front of the cloud. It's kind of hard to explain. And when he walked, I saw him limp. And the limp was my first impression of what it was about to make me realize. Because the limp seemed like how I walk. I have a very peculiar way of walking. I was born with damage to my body. scoliosis wasn't just a joke, among other things. And then I think Kira helped me tell the story more clearly. That, well, she was out there with me and saw most of this unfold until the eye appeared, and then the souls within the eye, or the beings within the eye. And at the point where I realized, hey, that's my walk, I felt like I was looking at myself from the future. That's the only way to explain it, because it is that distinct sensation, and there was no other sensation besides that. Imagine if you saw yourself from the future, your ultimate self, having been reincarnated as many times as possible, and the ascended soul that you became, and yourself right now made eye contact. How would you not know it? How would you not feel it? And that feeling that you would feel, that you could imagine yourself feeling more likely, that's what I felt. And I must say, it took me a bit fucking off guard. Because that's the point where I said to myself, no, because if you're me, then I'm you, and that means I'm no, trade secret. Oh, sorry. Every time I do the no, I think of the lead scene with the candy shop guy. And then I looked over to Kira, thinking she was still standing beside me, which I'm afraid I had told the story that she was. But according to her, and I think it does seem like that's the true memory there, she was already kneeling on the ground, unable to stand. And I remember kneeling with her and feeling the sheer power of the presence, and humbling myself to it, and you know, doing all the proper things, like, you know, trying to chase off any delusive thought or possibility that it's a demonic trick or anything of the like. And I looked to Kira. And I told her what I was thinking. And she just like nodded in agreement. And then she said she felt like she needed to go inside so that I could have some alone time with myself. So yeah, that's all really weird, isn't it? I think it's weird. Very weird. But not as weird as why that looks like a monkey face. I don't know why it looks like a monkey face. But anyway, so this guy here. Oh look, I'm still there. Hi. So this guy here is this. Which is the temple of the light of the creation, or the heavenly temple. Okay, now let's see how many people I lost. I had a few people watching. Oh, yeah, I lost a few. I don't care. You jealous? No, I'm not being petty by pointing out pettiness. But seriously. Jealous. As fucking childish as it is. That's what it all boils down to, is it? Jealousy. Envy. I didn't have a supernatural experience. My whole life is a fucking supernatural experience. You think that just came out of nowhere? My whole life was leading up to that point. If anybody should be envious, it's me. I should be envious of all those who I can free, because I can't free myself. But you guys basically don't yet know what responsibility really is. So anyway. Thinking about all that stuff takes an awful lot of energy out of me. So let's get a little more into this, shall we? Some of these are pictured as, physical places, right? But they're more of a state of mind. And I don't know quite how hard that's going to be for me to explain. Up where it says the heaven, for instance, the fabric of that reality is similar to the way the fabric of Arcadia can be, but isn't always. So think of Arcadia and the areas surrounding the Dark Rift as being sort of a dual dimension Arcadia as space. Yep, all of space and those little bubbles. Why? Because when you're in that, quote, place, space and time don't exist quite the way you expect them to. They exist sort of on an exponential gradient based on proximity and spiritual pressure. Spiritual pressure in some way equates to both distance and size once you're there. However, once you're there, you aren't really anywhere, and you are subject to mental, emotional, and even physical challenges that will be experienced as a waking dream in which you will your reality will be subjugated to the reality of the being that is encountering you or trying to destroy you. One of the two. But like I said, Neverland is second star to the right straight on top morning. Now, the Dark Rift is a third of the stars, although you could say it was gaining ground, but from this perspective it kind of looks like 2/3, but that's just the 2D representation. But what you have at this layer is the stars. What are the old words for those fields? Australis Corpus and Australis Noctis. You have the stars of Arcadia and the stars of the Dark Rift. You could impose the chakra wheels over that image and it would make sense. Yeah, that's because the chakra and all of New Age mythology is meant to absorb your soul into the soul of the universal mind, which was Hathor's attempt at taking over. So, stars are history and Gaelic. Just there. That was a conjugated word. Starumai, starumpo. Staristios. Anyways. I think I'm remembering that Proto-Gaelic Latin-like language, maybe. Anyway. So, there is sort of an order of arrangement based on mass and excitedness, which reverts to density, but also its relation to the interaction of the magnetic field. So picture the rotational star fields as simply balls of plasma that are locked similarly to the way a superconductor would be locked over a rotating magnetic field. And let's see if I can find that graphic on the video right quick. Video within a video. Hopefully I'll get around to moving this shit up to the top of the screen. Oh. Maybe that wasn't the one I was looking for. Where's our floating superconductor? Shit. Oh no, that's the random perpetual motion drawing. Okay, that was fun. Alright, so you have this one. Oh god, you can barely see it, I'm sorry. Anyway, that's the one where the little cube floats up. And the reason why is the temperature being lowered in this instance on that certain alloy causes that material to become superconductive, and then it achieves an equilibrium between the magnetic forces pushing away from it and pulling against it, and essentially defies gravity and will sit there, and the guy was spinning it, and apparently this fucking video sucks. Did I not get into the fucking shit? I don't know. We'll go all the way back after talking about the little Hindu models I found. Hindu models? No, I haven't found any of those lately. Okay. So that's the video for the cause of the magnetic field. And where the fuck was the one where it I mean, I could always just fucking do a YouTube search and try to get another clip of it. But I thought I was going to be like my own VJ here and not have to do all this stupid bullshit. But apparently I was wrong. Alright. We're just going to do it like this. We're going to do it the hard way. And I'm going to turn that off. Put that back up so y'all can look at that. The Meissner effect. Yeah, there it is. Oh, you know, I think I was right at it and I skipped it. Alright, so he just poured his liquid nitrogen all over this shit. And now his superconductor just floats in a circle over his little circle of magnets. Now, he gave it a nudge, but this is painful. You know, I don't get enough ad time. What am I supposed to do? Skip my own ad here? I can't bring myself to click the X. What is this? I don't know. It looks pretty tense. Acrimony? Not a very marketable title, but looks like a good movie. Anyway, so let me get back to the thing that I knew was on the video here. Oh, after I totally fucked up the camera angle. Alright, so here's what we showed last time. The other thing we showed last time. And that is, let's see here. Oh, I tried, damn it. Oh, there's convenient. Juxtaposition. Very convenient. So, if you go down here to past the obvious atmosphere to where it says crust, now the relative thickness I don't think is proportional. I think it's probably a lot thicker than that proportionally, and the atmosphere being thinner, stars not being as high as they look right there. But this would be a perpendicular cutaway to roughly one of those kind of maps. And then if you look at where it says geothermal brine, that would be the magnetic solution that is achieving this effect. And that is how you get stars oh, come on, where'd it go? I just watched it. That is how you get stars to do that. A little bit more. Now, obviously, liquid nitrogen is not required here, because plasma is also superconductive. And plasma is both what the physical explanation of stars is, and there is a theoretical form of plasma called ectoplasma. Now, what ectoplasma is not slime from a cute little green guy who eats stuff on a fucking hotel cart. Ectoplasma is the electromagnetic manifestation of a star that is a conscious being. Ectoplasma is sort of like the anti-ether. It's ethereal in nature, but it is the substance and the lack of substance that is the ether. It's also essentially what your reality is made of. I mean, in one sense, everything is ectoplasma. Huh. Now, there's an interesting alignment here that was not done intentionally, but the reason why it lines up should be obvious enough. And I mean, it makes perfect sense, is what I'm trying to say. Now, there is separate mentioning of the Whore of Babylon and the Queen of Heaven in the Bible. They are not the same person. So any accusation, blanket accusations of Egyptian mythology being Satanism is just a chauvinistic fucking conspiracy to blot out the understanding of esoteric things so that chauvinism can be chauvinism. But this is a little MS Paint drawing on top of my wife's birthmark. See the birthmark in the shape of those 5 little mole freckles. And if I can find the picture of George Washington's apron, you can see another interesting place where that pattern occurs. If I can find it. Let's see here. There is, without the marking. And that's just on her right arm, just like right where like a patch would be. It's not obscured. It's not, doesn't have a bunch of other freckles near it. It's not one of a bunch of different patterns. It just happens to make that. Just give me another second here to try to find. Can't believe I don't have it. I've used it quite a few times. on broadcasts here to illustrate this exact point, but I don't see it. Anyways, if you look on the fucking Freemasonic map, or I mean the Freemasonic apron, or a full symbolic diagram, you find a little representation of heaven. And you see the sun that powers the sun way up above the sun, you know. And that's like the light of creation up at the top. And then you see either 2 pillars or 4 pillars, each with an orb above it. That's all quite representative of the ancient Egyptian pantheon. So anybody who thinks Freemasonry didn't originate in ancient Egypt, you're sorely mistaken. But thanks for just buying the cover story, you were told. That's in large part what most Freemasons want you to think. And now the place where this inadvertently occurred here was on this map, on this diagram. I'll just I don't know. Okay. You see the light of creation, and you see the tops of the 4 pillars. And if you notice on the birthmark, the moon, there's one lower than the other. You see I got it left to right on here, right to left on the other. Just the same way, but, you know, opposite sides, as the moon being lower than the sun. Now, the sun and moon basically represent Osiris Ra and Isis Ra. But I just call it the sun and moon. What's interesting about the Dark Rift is that it's sort of it separates 2 realities, but you know, when diagrammed 2-dimensionally, it looks like it's in 2 places, but it's actually one thing that marches around the other, rotates, if you will. think of the three Masonic aprons if I don't have it fucking sitting here. I remember two of the orbs being the same color, but I want to double check that. I can't. That's annoying. I don't know why the hell I don't have that one fucking image on here. I know I tweeted it, but it's not in my Twitter folder. Even though I downloaded all my tweetly deletes when I was rocking in the treetop all night long. It's just not fucking there though. So I guess we'll have to do without that graphic. But anyways, I find all that very interesting. Hope you did too. This is from the Australian educational book on the 12 tribes of Israel from, I think, the 70s or 80s, possibly older than that. And if you notice, the 11 stars of the vision they are bisected into two groups. One a familiar symbol, the other is not. One at the same level of the rays of the sun, but between the sun and the moon, and between the level of the sun and the moon. The other at the level of the moon. One, you know damn good and well, you don't need me to tell you, represents a patriarchal take on religion, to say the least. Okay. And, you know, let's see here, we can get a picture of them looking all patriarchal. It represents Kabbalism. Is that Santa Claus back there? Oh, sorry, never mind. A white hat with a red top. The other set of stars, clearly meant to be a symbol of some sort. But what fate Amaroka? Now, what pyramid is that? What symbol is that? Well, if one's patriarchy and the other is aligned with the moon, which is an associate goddess symbol, representing a time in which the, quote, Jews, actually the Hebrews, were by and large part a matriarchal society, and have even rewritten their books and told you that even some female names were male names. Well, here we have this insignia on my wife, who I knew from childhood to be the incarnate goddess, equivalent to Mother Nature. I never really realized that that made me the whole Jesus guy, but I just knew that there was this fairy goddess girl who I used to hang out with when I was little, while all these ancient memories were unfolding in my mind, and I used to visit with her while we were both sleeping in different parts of the world. I mean, we got around. We could just go anywhere in our dreams. It was like fucking Muppet Babies Eat Your Heart Out, okay? Well, that's on her arm. And that's the map of heaven. But I think I probably shouldn't have taken away the 12 tribes image. Here's the thing. Isn't it the case that the Levites, the sons of Levi, those who were supposed to be the pure keepers of the temple, had like historically speaking, the story is that they went north after the Babylonian exile and became the Kohens, or something like that. And then from there to Poland and to America as the Kohens. And that would be this area that they went to after Babylon, and that they were there in that general area until the Russians became anti-Semitic, apparently. In order to, hide people among them to send them migrating into other areas. And all the people with them, victims of the few, victims of hatred for the few false ones that were among them. Most Jews are real Jews, people. And they're not bad people. They're God's people. But what if those aren't the Levites? I'm not debating whether or not they are Hebrew, or, I have no contention of their status as the tribe of Judah. Well, I don't know whether or not that's true, or meant to be true, or supposed to be true. But what if they're not the Levites? You know what Levites sounds like to me? Just in a silly way. Elves. Levites, Elvites. Levites, Elvites. But that's just silly. But you know what isn't silly? Linguistics. Linguistic analysis. Not linguistic analysis based on Tolkienism, although as much of Tolkienism seems to me to be an inspired take on this whole story. Oh, the parallels are fascinating, aren't they? Well, okay. Levites. Now, I'm trying to find a way, like a clever way to lead around to this. And I had kind of sort of pre-rehearsed this earlier, but I can't remember exactly the banter I was getting to. All right. Stars. Okay. Where are they? They're up in the sky, right? Stars are ascended beings. Okay. So presumably, at one point, there weren't stars. There were sons of God, and there were people, and they were here. Now, obviously, there's different types of stars. There's different classes of stars, even different levels, maybe you could say. What if those different levels, planets, nebulas, clusters, what if those different levels represented different generations of creation? Now, what if our names for stars, what if our names for something related to stars could either clue us into or verify who those people were? Or who of the just singular star formations out there, who of that generation? Was there a people? Is there any known group of people mentioned in history, religious or otherwise, that might have ascended as a group, been made to ascend by God, and elevated as stars? Well, elevated. It's a word for levitated, elevated, Levite, Elevite, elevation, levitation, levity. But there's another extra connection. Aus. A-U-S. Austerity. Australia. Australias means stars. I know of at least 2 places where the people who used to live there were wiped off the face of the earth. One is Austria, and the other is Australia. Both places, if you asked a child, would have been good places for elves to be hiding. Both places, if the theory of the dispersion of the tribes as different cultures, including the cultures of Europe, the cultures of Asia, etc., if those theories are correct, then among those tribes at that time should have been Levites. And there should have been some sacred place kept separate from most people, with an even more sacred place in the center, like Australia and Ayers Rock, a stone from the old creation. Did prisoners from Britain settle Australia? Did captains and soldiers from Britain risk their lives sailing that fucking far just to drop off people? Just to give free vacations? I mean, what? That was somehow economical to go there and farm? No. And then we find out that the Dutch settled before the British settled. Well, who settled before the Dutch? According to Stephen and Evan Strong, looks like somebody who used hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs. One set that I happen to remember feeling like I was just having a silly dream, because the first thing I drew was a stick figure. And little did I know that that stick figure actually meant behold, and was a perfectly appropriate thing to start a bunch of hieroglyphs with, I guess. A particular style of hieroglyphs was Hyksos. Some could argue being an Aramaic form of hieroglyph, or a Hebrew form of hieroglyph. But let's see here. In a nearby area where, in Australia, where Stephen and Evan Strong were trying to find clues as to the origin of those hieroglyphs, they also found an image of an oval with a little whale tail coming out of it, kind of like that little blue thing there. I drew that before I found the Stephen Evan Strong research. And my mind was blown. That's the point where my brain just couldn't fucking take it anymore. I'm like, oh, this is all making way too much sense. Well, I thought that was an interesting possible connection at the very least. We have a group of people who have vanished, and some people say that they are them, but they might not be them. Alright, Mr. Scam Likely, we're just going to have to wait. Some guy named Scam Likely was calling my phone. I don't know who that is. Anyways. So, any questions or comments? Now, as far as whether it's 2 layers of crust with the brine sandwiched between it, or the brine is sort of a sandwich beneath the gas planet-like vapor of the waters that were divided to create this reality. Those waters being an ectoplasma form of, actual H2O. Any free-floating spirits that don't wish to manifest, or that can't manifest, spirits that voluntarily give up their energy, give up their memory, that is what all of that is comprised of. Water. There is a proving ground of sorts about the size of the moon, made of sand. There are no physical structures other than that which were made by beings, not necessarily people. But there's no like mountains or rivers or anything like that on it. It's an entirely sand reality that's in the shape of an orb. And I think Beetlejuice channeled it best with the whole Saturn planet thing. You guys been to Saturn? I hate Saturn. Fucking worms, right? Am I right? Sandworms, am I right? It's been a long time since I saw that movie. My favorite quote since I was 8 years old. Nice fucking mole! Okay. So, that is basically a place where your creative energy is either restored to you or taken from you completely, and you start anew. And from there, in the old form of things, you would at that point be born on that little green plane in the middle. I guess you'd know that as the underworld or Sheol. That's not Hades. Hades was under different management. But it's the same place. That's where I'm from. That's how I know that that's a place. Now, in the middle of that is the lighthouse, in which, like I said before, I told y'all the story of how after I was born, I found the flute on the river bank. I was asking my, quote, mother questions, and she told me about my, quote, older brothers before taking me into that lighthouse, and up the stairs were mirror paintings. These mirror paintings would show you parts of your soul that you were supposed to have forgotten, and if they triggered your memory, something bad would happen to you. I wasn't really sure what, but I knew it was a bad thing. And that's, what happened before I was born into this life. And it was Kira, who was the one memory I took with me, who I found in my childhood, who allowed my memories to unpack every single time I slept. Every single time I slept, I felt like I had lived another couple of centuries. It was quite bizarre, just the level of thought that I had when I was 5 years old. It ain't right, I'm telling you. Too much stress for a little boy to be under. That's all I'm going to say. No wonder I fucking had ulcers by the time I was 9. So, on the lower plane, sort of between the mountains that surround Hades, or the underworld, or whatever you want to call it, there is the cause of those mountains. And now, see, I have these things labeled as the Weaver and the Worm. They are both the Weaver and the Worm. And each one of them is the Weaver, and each one of them is the Worm. And who you're talking to depends more on who you are than who they are. Bear in mind that these are the types of things that should only make sense when you're half asleep. Now, this lower being was basically just a ball of destruction. A cross between an ancient deity and a machine. A cross between an excavation vehicle and a star. And it is the rotating or revolving, separating guard between this old paradise and the lake of fire, which physically, to someone who isn't going to enter it, would appear very much like what you'd see in a sci-fi movie as the accretion disk of a black hole. And in some ways, that Weaver worm sort of stirs it and emits it and sucks it in all at the same time as she circumnavigates the place. But time does not function. She is not... Think of her as more of like an electron. She's always in every place. Okay. So if for instance, if a throne-sitting being, a god, was giving someone a tour, that would serve as a bridge between the two underworlds, or the two sides of the underworld. And she would be in one place serving as a bridge, while she also continued to revolve and destroy. Are you half asleep yet? Now, I presume that there is water below the physical landmass in the center because there was water running through the landmass of the center. And something I find interesting, it's almost as though that place is the past. It's almost as if that is Pangea still. Because back in 2011, I noticed that there was this river that ran through and then was separated and then ran through again in New Zealand. And then I noticed that sort of a valley that wasn't a fault line followed it through Papua New Guinea and through the Philippines and through Japan and through Asia, through China, through Persia. Through Samaria, through Africa, through Europe, then through North America. I could see the trace outline of this river, and it almost started to like its presence just started to glow to me when I realized that's the river Styx, and this is the future. And it's still connected. We're still connected through the spirit world on such a physical, tangible almost way. It's kind of cool, I think. Anyways. Let's see, I got anything else written down there? Oh, I need a stretch. I was supposed to get my fucking nap in early today because I was just tired as hell and had a headache when I woke up. So, any questions? I think I'm gonna wrap this baby up. Yeah, it's good enough. I haven't even looked at the news. I think I fell asleep watching Rachel Maddow at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Let's see here if anything's happening. I'll go ahead and let you know. The United States have finally sanctioned Russia. Oh. Trump is really desperate to save his own ass, finally. So this comes after Theresa May expelled, 23 Russian diplomats. And Russia, after taking no responsibility, called Theresa May's actions a provocation. Scrolling. Keep that news a-scrolling. Oh, Speaking of funny songs, y'all want to hear a funny song? Sent this to my dad because I like making poopy jokes with my dad. Who doesn't like making poopy jokes with their dad? I send it to Joey. I send it to a lot of people. So you familiar with the country song Boot Scoot Boogie? Well, Brussels sprouts, sauerkraut, feel like I've got gout in my booty. Oh, get down, turn around, flush it down, toot, scoot, pooty. Okay. Yeah, that's all. The toot, scoot, pooty. Get down, turn around, flush it down, toot, scoot, pooty. Oh yeah, just continue with that in your head. I'm sure you'll have no problem making more fun lyrics of your own there. Michael Isikoff to Chris Hayes. 50-50 that the P tape is real. Wait, that the P something. Yep, that the P tape is real. I'm torn about Trump and his obsession with F-18s. I think he's just seen too much of the anti-F-35 propaganda. The F-35 is a wonderful fucking machine. But I'm still also partial to the F-18s because, you know, it ain't broke. You know, it ain't broke. And the thing about an F-18, if one engine breaks, it's still going to get home. Oh, and speaking of F-18s, y'all heard about this one that got down, was it off the coast of Florida? Supposedly burst into flames right before landing, right near the runway. Pilots ejected but did not survive. That sounds to me like a possible fucking shoulder-mounted downing. Because generally speaking, when you have, you know, problems with the airplane and you're not going to land it, and you eject, you survive. Even if the plane's on fire, you eject, you survive. There's not a lot of different ways a plane's just going to suddenly fucking explode unless it gets hit. And when it gets hit, that shrapnel can kill the ejecting pilots. So I hope we're having a serious investigation. Because you got everything from right-wing cross and crescent groups to, you know, you just have a fucking straight-out Russian agent. Irish Prime Minister is at the White House. Larry Kudlow, whatever the fuck that is, named Trump's nest. Chief Economic Advisor. Everybody's wondering if FBI Deputy or former FBI Deputy Director, now bench warmer, I guess, is going to be fired before he's allowed to retire. That just seems fucking silly and a distracting thing to me. There's a music festival in Kharkiv, Ukraine. That's nice. Oh, speaking of Ukraine, let's talk about Timoshenko. So there's a new settlement. Apparently, the Munich court that's arbitrating whether or not Ukraine owes money to Russia, or Russia owes gas to Ukraine, etc., etc. That's finally ruled in Ukraine's favor. And basically there was some money. I think it was like $2.1 billion or $21 billion. I'm not sure. It's kind of a big difference. I know. I'm sorry. But anyways, a lot of money. A lot of money either way, right? That Russia was trying to say Ukraine owed them, according to a contract. But Russia at the time was basically refusing to deliver on their end of the bargain. So, what this all goes back to is the reason why people are pissed at Yulia Tymoshenko. And it's again one of them things, kind of like what Hillary Clinton was facing, where tough, seemingly shitty decisions were made under a great deal of pressure and are later taken out of context. And let me say this. I haven't seen personally where anyone on the Ukrainian side confirmed that those were the terms that Tymoshenko negotiated, but supposedly the terms were that Ukraine would pay $450 a barrel for 10 years at 52 million barrel a year minimum or something like that, when they had only actually consumed about 39 per year, 39 million. And she went behind the president's back as prime minister and signed this agreement with Vladimir Putin directly in 2009. Okay. Now, during this time period, the Ukrainians would have known more than we knew about what Putin was up to. They saw their sister republic, Georgia, invaded. Yanukovych had already ran once, I think, didn't he? But the Russians were trying to push their way into Ukraine in a lot of different ways. And, had been consistently for quite some time. But here's the thing. I don't see in Yulia Tymoshenko someone who would have done what she did for personal gain. I don't see her as being that greedy, nor do I see her as being that stupid. Okay? Just not that stupid. I mean, obviously, if she was doing that for personal gain, it'd be really easy to get caught for it. It'd be fucking inexcusable. Okay? It'd be obvious that she'd get caught for it. So, either the terms were altered, or she was coerced, or something along the lines of coercion. Maybe shown a video of what would happen to Ukraine if she didn't cooperate. But I just don't believe all the hype about Yulia Tymoshenko selling out her country. There's something else that happened there. Because if she sold out her country, she would have been more than happy to fade into the fucking scenery and try to be talked about and brought up as little as possible. But she's still out there every day trying to fight for the rights and the well-being of her people. Anyway. So, again, any questions about the little deal here? Why it looks like a monkey head, I don't know. It just happens to look like a monkey head. That is not intentional, nor does it mean anything. It's just kind of cute. Oh, look at the little monkey head. We can call it a boo. Anyways, I guess if nobody's got anything, I'm going to go ahead and call this a broadcast. Broadcast. There, I called it a broadcast. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this one. Please feel free to post links wherever you think somebody might want to be interested in seeing this. Comments on other people's videos, whatever, forums. Be creative, please. I'd appreciate it. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Check your subscription if you are a subscriber, because they just disappear sometimes. Y'all take it easy, but don't take it all.
In my heart, and baby, down in my soul. You, baby, you can't take it no more. No, I know I'm walking out that door the way you treated me too many times before. Oh, you know I want you there, I wanna be right there with you. I know I gotta keep